Well, happy first day of summer. Today is the start of summer. It's kicked off with the summer solstice. Again, as the Earth moves around the sun, it has kind of four key, I shouldn't say ingredients, but four key landmarks. You have the summer solstice, and of course, this is all relative to the northern hemisphere. The summer solstice, which is today, and then we'll eventually get to the autumnal equinox, or the start of fall, September 22nd. That's when we have about roughly 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of moonlight. The winter solstice, which is unfortunately the shortest time, or shortest daylight of the year, and then the vernal or the spring equinox on March 20th. So eventually we'll get around to that. But the summer solstice, because it is today, it officially starts at 9:42 this evening, but certainly feels like summer already. So yeah, just kind of splitting hairs at this point. The solstice, where it comes from, it's a little bit of Latin for you on this Friday. Sol means sun. I think many of you figured that. So steer, I think I'm saying that right. I'm not a Latin professor or a Latin knower, but to stand still as it kind of sits here at its point of the sun. And the reason why it is the summer solstice is because this is the point where the sun is at its highest angle. And you can see that the point or the tilt of the Earth is pointing. The North Pole is the closest here towards the sun. So folks like in Alaska see sun for basically the entire day for the next couple of days. It is the longest day of the year, longest amount of daylight. 14 hours and 37 minutes. That's here locally in northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, but some of you a little bit farther north, give or take a couple minutes or so. And the days, unfortunately, will gradually get shorter until the winter solstice, where we'll only have 9 hours and 42 minutes of daylight. But for now, things are going to stay pretty steady. We won't really see that massive decline of daylight until later into the summer and into the start of fall. So those sunsets will stay pretty consistent over the next few weeks. Technically, the latest is going to be 8:38. Again, this is rough, may differ between the area for by a couple of minutes, but the latest sunset isn't actually until a week. But we already had the earliest sunrise at 5:59 just a couple days ago, so those sunrises will get slightly later. It's not going to be very noticeable. You notice over the month of July, it's not going to matter much, but again, August and then onward, then we'll start to see those daylights kind of shrinking. So for today, high temperatures going to be in the low to mid 90s. You can see across the board. Plenty of sunshine during the morning. Clouds will build back in during the afternoon, but not expecting any rain out of it. Southwest wind at 5 to 15. For tonight, low temperatures very mild, and the reason being is because we have all that moisture and temperatures can't dip below the dew point. So the dew points are in the low to mid 70s, and that's where the low temperatures are going to stay. We'll have clear skies, a little bit of a southerly wind at 5 to 15, so I don't expect much in the way of any fog. Then for tomorrow, high temperatures once again in the low to mid 90s, 89 there in Bentonville, but again, 89, 90, not a massive difference there. A little bit more of a southwest breeze, it's going to be a 10 to 20, and I think we'll see widespread sunshine throughout the day, minus a few passing clouds during the afternoon. Now, officially, we're not under any heat alerts. That is just off to our south, into our east, and other portions of Arkansas. With that being said, it is still going to feel very hot out there. The heat index is going to be up to 105, and technically the heat advisory is 106 to 110. So again, really splitting hairs at this point, not that much of a difference. Still be cautious out there if you're spending time outside, because this heat isn't going away. Now you can see for a better portion of the center of the country, we are seeing that heat. That heat dome, as we've been talking about, is going to be set in place for the center of the country. So you can see excessive heat warnings here in the purple. Heat advisories basically from the Minnesota down to the Gulf of Mexico. And then unfortunately for that excessive heat watch, you notice, or extreme heat watch, that's moving into portions of the Great Lakes region. So what we're seeing is that it's going to be hot. And while not technically heat advisory hot, it's going to be right on that border. You see that feels like conditions right around 105. So again, while not necessarily officially under it, still going to be pretty uncomfortable nonetheless. Anywhere from about 95 in northwest Arkansas to 105 down in the River Valley is going to be that peak heat index for the afternoons today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and beyond. And those dew points, as I mentioned, in the low to mid 70s. So that's why not only low temperatures are going to stay on the warm side, but that makes it feel that much hotter out there. With all the rain we had, that moisture is going to be sticking around. So here's that heat dome I was talking about. So that's why much of the center of the country is going to be seeing this heat, because whenever we go in the middle of the atmosphere and look at this, you see these kind of mountain ridges. Notice they're finally moving eastward, and that's where we get that very hot and dry conditions. Off to the northwest, the Pacific Northwest, you're seeing that cooler, a little bit of wetter conditions as well, but that kind of breaks apart by the end of this weekend. You notice this low is going to track off to the northeast. So for the most part, for much of the country, especially from about the Missouri River eastward, it is going to be very hot and it is going to be dry. Once we get kind of past Monday, you see this ridge kind of breaks apart a little bit, not by much, but a little bit. But you notice this kind of, again, that mountain ridge is becoming a little bit more broad. So basically the weather is going to be pretty consistent for at least the next 7 days, if not for the rest of June, because that temperature outlook through the rest of June, practically minus a day, still trending well above normal, especially the farther east you go in the country. But for us here in the 5 News coverage area, still trending above normal. And then even off to the Pacific Northwest, another kind of ridge builds in, some warmer temperatures there, just really only cooler in the desert southwest. Obviously still very warm in the desert Southwest, but a little bit cooler than normal. So what does that mean? Well, this is going to be your forecast for the next 14 days, it looks like. High temperatures stay pretty consistent in the low to mid 90s in northwest Arkansas. You notice these 20% popping up. Basically, when we get this time of year, late June through kind of early August, we're a little bit drier periods. Sometimes what happens is you'll get these clouds that'll build in during the day. Kind of the afternoon will start out with sunshine, then very hit or miss showers and storms. They're going to be like these little popcorn kernels. Sometimes they contain heavy rain, sometimes some gusty winds, maybe even small hail. But are we expecting any severe weather? No, not at all. So we'll see maybe those chances kind of Tuesday onwards. So just something to keep in mind if you're outside during the afternoon or early evening, but nothing to be concerned about, and those usually fizzle out by sunset. For the River Valley, obviously a little bit hotter, and that peak heat index could be as high as 105 in some areas. That same pattern persists there. So again, starting today and really onward, make sure to take those proper precautions. Enjoy the heat, but stay safe out in the heat.